Florida's governor Ron DeSantis. There was a proposal that was put out at the beginning of this month. That was a proposal for Citizens Bill of Rights for AI. And then yesterday, this is where I was able to be aware of this. Yesterday, there was a roundtable discussion that was happening with Florida's governor Ron DeSantis, and then other individuals there talking about the Citizens Bill of Rights for AI and sharing stories relating to AI and some of the terrible tragedies, going back to the sinister ways that this technology can be used. I didn't watch the whole thing. But I was able to hear what Governor Ron DeSantis shared at the beginning. So I want to get into this Citizens Bill of Rights for you. I want to go through it on the website. And then it relates back to our conversations we've had here on the show about the AI data centers and the impact of where things impact on the environment, on energy usage, the impact it has for on residents for electricity bills, and how this messaging that we can get relating to if it's climate change narrative, or how this is gonna, the going back to as small business owners, you won't get replaced by AI, but you're gonna get replaced by someone who understands AI, and that psychological tactic. Things just didn't make sense. And when in this roundtable discussion, actually, Ron DeSantis talks about this and shares some of the points that has been talked about on this show, which for me, on a face value perspective, you're looking at this at face value, it's promising. But again, there have been plenty of promises made. So it's now, what is the follow through on this? And I've said it before, as small business owners, we got to unite. And in order to have a bigger voice in shaping our future. And then we also have to work with elected officials that truly care about the citizens that they're serving. And it's important for us to not be naive of how corruption can happen in power. And as things get bigger, it becomes easier for that corruption to take place. So this again, as I said, it on the face value gives me it's promising. It gives me hope as to where this could move forward into the future. And one of the reasons for the show is to be able for us to come together and unite and move forward and seek out the truth, and then from there to make sure that we are creating real meaningful change in our country, a country that I love and I hope you love too. So let's get into it. Welcome back to the show. I am gonna share with you a quote from the roundtable from Ron DeSantis, and share with you this quote to kick it off, and then we're going to go through the different points of the bill, or the Citizens Bill of Rights. This proposal, it's not an actual bill yet, but it's a proposal for an outline for what this could look like. So here we go for the quote. We are all about technologies that can enhance our experience as Floridians, Americans, and as human beings. But what we don't want to do is be subsidizing or put a thumb on the scale for technologies that are going to supplant the human experience or try to take over things. And you'll even hear some people say, "Oh, the AI is going to run everything. We're not even going to be able to control it." No, that ain't working. End quote. So that's promising, especially at the end of saying, "Hey, this isn't going to be the way that we're going to move forward as the future." And I say that it's like we have to decide what our future is for this country, and I don't want a place where we take away the human experience or involvement of humans in our daily lives and just give it up to technology to control every aspect of our life. Like, that's not the future that I want. And so it's reminding ourselves that this can be a technology that can be beneficial, and there's a lot of benefits. I use AI. I said that before, large language learning models like Gronk to help out with research. But there are sinister ways this technology can be used, and so we have to come together and figure out what that future is. So let's get into the points here for this Bill of Rights, Citizens Bill of Rights. So I'm going to go through all the points. You can look this up. I appreciate and thank you for your support with this movement. As this movement continues to grow, as the show continues to grow, it'll be easier for me to show this to you rather than just reading it. But if you're listening to this, then either way, you'd have to listen to this for me going through it. So let's start off with this section. I'm gonna again here's a quote from it. The artificial intelligence proposal will establish an AI Bill of Rights to provide consumers with protections. Reenact protections. Florida has already passed against deep fakes and explicit material, including those depicting minors. Prohibit any state or local government agencies from utilizing DeepSeek or any other Chinese-created AI tools to protect American data. Prohibit AI from using an individual's name, image, likeness without their consent, tie it to harm or sale of a product, political ads, schemes to defraud already in law, or schemes to defraud already in law. Require a notice to consumers when interacting with AI, company chatbots. So let me stop there, end quote, and then I'll get back to the other points. But that last one I want to highlight, which is the truth. When you are in the digital world, do you have transparency as to you're interacting right now with an AI? Because I wouldn't be. I'm guessing you've seen it out there. How there can be these fake videos that look that look very real, or even you can get phone calls. There's been stories where people get phone calls from their family members saying, "Hey, I need money. I'm being held hostage. Like, send money here." And it's they're taking their voice and they're being able to use their voice to communicate with this family member that thinks they're actually talking to their family member when they're not. So this is just going to continue to ramp up, and it's important to come back to the individual freedoms that we have in this country that we must preserve. I said that before. For the one that comes up is freedom of speech and having conversations about this. So it's really important for transparency. And when we seek out the truth, going back to the layers you got to peel back, then being able to share that truth and other freedoms that we have in this country that there can be a lot of Americans that take for granted and that may not even realize it. And I go back to when was the last time you read the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution? It's important to understand these rights that we have and be informed. So this, again, as I said, this is promising. On face value. So let me continue now to quote the rest of these points. Prohibit entities from providing licensed therapy or mental health counseling through artificial intelligence. This can be expanded to include use of AI to imitate a licensed professional. Next one, provide parental controls for minors, which will allow parents to access the conversation their child has with a large language learning model, set parameters for when the child can access the platform, and notify parents if their child exhibits concerning behavior. Ensure data inputted to AI secure and private. Prohibit companies from selling or sharing personal identifying information with third parties, and mirror data privacy protections in current law. And then last one, limit insurance companies from using AI for insurance claims. Require that AI cannot be used as sole determination in adjusting or denying a claim. Insurers that can use AI for claims must detail the use and allow the Office of Insurance Regulation to inspect the AI model to ensure it does not violate unfair insurance trade practices, end quote. Okay. So that was something that was talked about in the round table yesterday of how having human interaction in the insurance claim process. And it goes back to this technology. There is benefit to this technology for efficiency and convenience, but those can go too far for convenience. And it's been interesting to notice this over, I got started as a small business owner over a decade ago as a DJ, and to just notice the messaging of how it's ramped up for convenience. I come back to where did this, this could be another show. It's like, where did this narrative come up of the goal is to not work? Like the goal is to not work, to be passive, to hang out and just, live your life, have fun. Where did that come from? And what was the intention behind that? Because I think about, this show and being able to share with you this information. This fuels me. I love this, to be able to share with you what is going on, for us to come together and unite as small business owners. This work is fueling me. And to think that I the goal is to not do this, uh, that is something that we have to push back on for the narrative. Because again, I know there can be some with good intention to say, "Hey, we want to make sure that you're doing work that you love, and continue to make sure that you're living a life that with a high, improving your quality of life." And I talked about that, and make sure we're improving the quality of life of Americans, and how can we raise the bottom 50% of small businesses, and the ripple effect that can have within our economy. So I get where that can come from good faith, but then it's just like, where does this go for the pendulum swing of like, okay, we're gonna go around, just you know have fun, have fun, be kids, is like the feeling, like let's be kids again and just hang out. um so it's like, or just hang out on the couch and just do nothing and just watch shows all day long, be entertained, and like mindlessly, just living day to day. So it's like you have this pendulum swing that can happen. And I feel like that's gonna be for a whole nother show of like where this came from for the narrative of like, oh, the goal is to not work. Like, I don't. It goes back to these moral values we gotta continue to instill in our society, which is discipline, accountability, ownership, and being able to move forward and be in a society that celebrates meritocracy. We've got to highlight this. So that was the Citizens Bill of Rights for AI. I want to share with you this other one. It was a data centers proposal, because it really connects back to what I talked about, where things don't make sense. Be curious, ask questions. Really important for you to do that within your specific industry, but then on a national level as well, and then even international level. But the data centers, like, that just doesn't make sense for capacity, for the amount of energy usage that's estimated into the future, for the infrastructure, what the impact it's having on increasing electricity bills for residents, to just the environmental impact for the amount of CO2 emissions equivalent that are being released from all of the overall data centers. That, again, as I said, for estimates, 15 to 25%, those data centers, which are less than 6,000 here in the US, are focused on AI. So uh, things just didn't make sense. And it felt like there was a short term thinking with this. So, because you think about these communities, what was mentioned in the roundtable yesterday from Ron DeSantis was Meta's data center in Richland Parish, Louisiana. And if you were to guess what this community, it is a poor community. No surprise there. So it was also mentioned in the roundtable how they believe that the state and local communities should ultimately have a say in this stuff. And it's true. Like, I don't want a data center in my backyard. And so, as local communities, it's important to be part of that conversation. Similarly, as when small business owners unite, you have a bigger voice, and we are able to be able to move forward with a bigger voice to create real meaningful change. And it's like common sense. It's common sense stuff. It's like making sure the community is on board with something like this. It's really important. And then I go back to what I've talked about before, the importance of localizing government involvement. And so bringing it back down to a local level, um, and then as well as the supply chain local level. But it was interesting to get this, to learn about this for the insight. I hadn't really thought about it, but it makes sense. Where, like, Ron DeSantis also talked about how there is not that big of an economic impact after these data centers are constructed. So, you see this messaging that's out there for the urgency of, okay, we're going to do this for jobs and money to the community. But then you got to ask yourself, actually, does the money actually go back to the community itself, for the citizens in that community? And there are examples of, I think about the amount of examples of different fraud cases that are out there. I talked about it before here on the show, the Minnesota fraud case relating back to the organization Feeding Our Future, and what happened with our tax-paying dollars. So that, and then for jobs, it's like, okay, well, construction, yeah, that makes sense for jobs for construction. But then what happens after construction for management? Like, it's like, when you look at it, for the amount of individuals required for human beings to be there on site, um, it can be drastically different than those that are, when it comes to the jobs for construction, for the numbers there. So it's these things where, if it doesn't make sense, be curious, ask questions, and it just you can feel this sense of urgency of like, oh, we got to go do this, we got to make it happen. But the thing is, it goes back to you think about that for in business for what a messaging you could have gotten as a small business owner, which is like, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. And it's like in this situation, it's like we're not gonna, we're not gonna actually look for what's the best interest of the local communities. We're just going to build this thing and they're going to have to deal with it and accept it. And that goes back to this elitism, which is very insulting for you think about it in this worldview of global elites and then the rest of us, elites and the rest of us. It's insulting for that type of messaging that you can get. So let me go through these points here for the data center, and I'm setting the stage here. So this isn't gonna be the only show getting into this the Citizens Bill of Rights. I'm gonna keep following this and see what unfolds in the legislation of this. But let me read this for you for the data center proposal. So here we go. The quote is the data centers proposal will protect consumers from footing the bill for AI data centers. This proposal will protect ratepayers, prohibit utilities from charging Florida residents more to support hyperscale data center development, including electric, gas, and water utilities, protect taxpayers, no taxpayer subsidies for big tech, protect local control, allows local government to prohibit data center construction, development, protect Florida's water resources, and ensure that water resources are not utilized in the detriment of the public, and protect natural Florida. Prevent the construction, siting, or operation of data centers by foreign principals or on land classified as agricultural and or lands under a greenbelt exemption, and requires setbacks and vegetative buffers, requires FDOT to complete noise abdomen reviews to protect natural Florida from noise pollution. End quote. So a few things I want to focus on here is again the no subsidies, going back to taxpayer money. It goes more towards this free market capitalism here, and where government involvement doesn't make any sense and is unnecessary getting that out of it. But again, I said it before, I believe in limited government involvement, including protecting consumers that and avoiding monopolies is another one. So the complaints for stories that I've seen on local news stations relating to the other data centers I talked about for XAI, Colossus, which again was out in Memphis, or is out in Memphis, Tennessee. What was shared there was like the noise, pollution, the smell, and frustration from residents. So we've got to think long term as small business owners, and we have great opportunity to here as well to have to leverage in the marketing that we are there to build trust and predictability with the people that we are serving through our products and services, and that we care about supporting. This is being talked about on the national level, and it's a really powerful opportunity here as small business owners to leverage, to be able to leverage the messaging that we're here to build trust and predictability. And as I said before, I believe America's future is a small business renaissance, and this just continues to fuel what's being talked about on a national level, which is pushback on how much impact AI is going to have in our daily lives. Because as I said, AI can have so many amazing benefits. For you think about it in healthcare is one, to being able to organize research. I mean, when it comes to efficiency and convenience, there's a lot in this. But then, as I said, there are sinister ways, like dynamic pricing is one of them, that can create unpredictability for the individual citizen, for Americans. So that the other aspect of this too is the amount of water usage. I mean, I talked about that before for estimates for water usage, and you think about the direct cooling involved, indirect of water usage. It's a lot. It is a lot. It's in the billions for all the data centers here in the U.S. So we've got to continue to make sure that we are coming together and being able to shape this future in a way that will continue to bring this vision to reality of America's future small business renaissance and improve quality of life of our communities. Because when small businesses are thriving, the quality of life of our communities improves, and the norm isn't working anymore. Think about the $38 trillion in debt for our country, how Gen Z is the most in debt generation for their age in the history of the US. and how so many young people are lost trying to figure out their purpose. And then a lot of cities and towns are becoming unaffordable for a lot of Americans. Change is inevitable. And so we as small business owners must move forward and lead by example here. This is really encouraging to see, as I said, and promising for the conversation being had with our government elected, with our elected officials. And again, this is on state level relating to Florida specifically, but then what could this do for ripple effect across the country and other states, and the conversation, the momentum that can be built around this. But yeah, it was really cool to see that roundtable happen and to hear some of the things that were being said there. And then also, it was really tragic to hear. I hadn't gone to all the stories, but it was really tragic to hear about the sinister ways that this technology is being used, and the impact it can have, especially on young people. If that's with the impact that it could have, where young people are taking their life through suicide, to being to you think about the malicious intent of these organized groups being able to take advantage of vulnerable people on these platforms. And you go back to the call where you get a call from a family member, you think it's a family member, but really is a scammer looking to get money from you. And you think you're trying to help out a family member because they're in a really tough situation, but you didn't realize it's AI. So we've got to understand that there are evil forces out there. You cannot ignore that. Small businesses cannot ignore that any longer. We must come at it from an understanding of we want to make America's future. I think about that. For America's future is a small business renaissance. We want to make that vision into a reality, and we cannot ignore the evil forces that are out there that are attacking our individual rights here as Americans, these freedoms that we must preserve, such as the freedom of speech and also the freedom to decide how we make a living, which includes owning our small business. So this won't be the last time talking about this. I feel that in my gut, and it's important to come back to this idea that we as human beings, we have been endowed by God with certain inalienable rights. And that's what our country, when you think back to our country and the Declaration of Independence, if you take the time to read that and really take it in, and even pause and go back and review it again for these words. When you read that Declaration of Independence, when you go through the Constitution, for me, going through that, I had a new appreciation of this country and the freedoms and rights that we have as individuals that we must preserve. And that for a lot of times, and I'm guilty of this too in the past, of taking these rights for granted. And we cannot do that. And as small business owners, we absolutely can continue to lead by example as the future leaders for this country. I'll see you guys tomorrow.